We don't know what we're doing.
We don't ever know what we're doing. And I think a lot of people don't know what they're doing.
It's okay.
And that's okay. Because tonight's topic is about learning from our own mistakes. And I just want to first start off by sharing an example of not introducing myself first. And Doña Yakiel introducing himself too. So that's a prime example of this introductory.
We go by the seat of our pants sometimes. We start this and we roll with it. There's not a lot of planning that goes into these videos. It's every Friday. We know that once the kids go to bed, we're going to do this. Obviously, last week was a little different. Life happened. We were tired, but we did it Saturday. Same thing. You know, we sit down with the computer right here. We know the topic. We don't have notes. We're just going with it. So here we are again with another video. Doña Yakiel.
Doña Liz.
Mycelia Familia.
And welcome to the collective community we're trying to create.
As she said, this topic today is learning from our past mistakes. Do you want me to go first, or would you like to go first?
You can go first.
Okay.
Oh, wait. I think you should go first.
Okay. Well, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, as we all have. First thing I kind of want to say is someone who is sort of a mentor to me that I worked under their wing. He was this old organic chemist, and I worked for his daughter's company. And he was a really smart guy. You know, he used to be a professor at Texas A&M Tech. He's worked in a lot of different industries. And out here he was working in the cannabis industry. And he was teaching me how to, you know, they made these little capsule or pressed pills with THCA in them. And what that is a whole process of formulating, because when you're using this pill press machine, it's finicky, and there was a lot of tinkering we had to do to figure things out, and a lot of mistakes were made along the way. And as he was teaching me these things, you know, I'd make a mistake, and you know, he'd correct me, but he said something that's always stuck with me, and that's, I'm not smarter than you, I've just made 1,000 more mistakes than you have. And what that means essentially is he chose to learn from his mistakes instead of let them, you know, deter him from trying more. And mistakes in our lives are always going to pop up. No one's perfect. Everyone has moments where we falter. But what's important is that you choose to try and learn from what happened, so that when you move forward, you don't recreate the same pattern. And as I said before, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. And when I was in high school, you know, at that point in my life, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I'm sure, I was really trying to find myself. And I feel like that's a point in everybody's life in their early adolescence when they make the most mistakes. Because that's when you're starting to gain your own independence, your own individuality, certain responsibilities and freedoms as you get older and start to age into adulthood. You know, that's where most people make a lot of mistakes. And one of the biggest mistakes I think I ever made was choosing to go down a path that I knew wasn't good for me, but felt out of my control at a certain point. And that path was addiction. You know, that's probably the biggest mistake to this day that I've ever made. And every day, it's a struggle to fight that still. you know. And I, in high school, was really wrapped up in the music scene where drugs are flowing like crazy. And everybody around me that I was surrounding myself with was in the same boat, you know, trying their best to find themselves, but also have fun, be a kid. But the difference between a lot of people was a lot of people didn't learn from their mistakes. And a lot of those people now, when I look at where they're at in life, they've stayed the same, if not gotten worse. And that's the important part about learning from your mistakes, is it's a choice. You don't have to learn from them. You can choose to look the other way all you want, but it's not going to change the problem. And, you know, a lot of my life, I focused on the wrong things because it was what I wanted, but not what I needed. And I think everybody has something that they want, but know isn't good for them. Especially in today's times where life is so heavy and stressful, there's so much confusion in the world. I feel like a lot of people tend to cling to vices and devices that distract us and numb us from really feeling our true selves, because being our true selves can feel really uncomfortable sometimes, in times where it feels like we're not allowed to just be ourselves, you know? And we live in America here, where it's supposed to be the land of the free. And we do, like we said in the last video, have a lot of privileges living here. But at the same time, there's a lot of parts of it that over the years are just getting more and more crept upon. You know, censorship is a big one right now. I was talking to a friend of mine about, you know, I've seen multiple cases where people have made a tweet on X now, not Twitter, and they said something about the president, and the FBI showed up at the door asking them about it. But we live in a country that's supposed to have freedom of speech, and it wasn't even anything very violent. It was just a disagreement with his policies and some vulgar language included in it. But that was enough to trigger the FBI to show up at their doorstep. And that's the type of thing where, is that a mistake? I don't know. Because realistically, we want to be free. We want to have our own individuality. But also, we have to learn the time and place sometimes. You know. You could.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm tripping me out. Every single time that someone makes a mistake, like I said, it's a choice to learn from it or not. And my whole process in my adulthood now, having kids, is really focused on making sure I choose to learn from those mistakes in my life, so that way I don't pass down those things to my kids. And just as that mentor of mine had mentioned, I'm not smarter than you, I've just made a million more mistakes than you. That's the mentality I would like to have for my kids, is not to shame them for their mistakes, not to make them feel dumb or stupid, because we all do make mistakes. But also, when someone has learned from a mistake, it would be wise to listen to their advice and just keep an open mind. Because it is very easy to just, when you make a mistake, you can either choose to learn from it or just beat yourself up. And that beating yourself up isn't going to help. You know, so it's really important to try and remain solid and not get lost in the sauce, essentially. You know, it's a topic for me that I could go on and on and on about. There's plenty of examples. But I'm not trying to get into too many specific details as much as I'm trying to sum it up in the sense of, it's really important that as we go through life, to pay attention to how our actions affect other people, to how our words affect other people, because that's the most common mistake I feel like. We get heated in a moment and we say something, but maybe we don't really mean it. We're just reacting. And it can be a mistake to say those things because words do hurt. Words are powerful. And trying your best to backtrack that can be a long process sometimes because words can stick with us. And I pray that everyone out there who's going through something where they feel they've messed up or they're just not doing as good as they know their potential is, don't beat yourself up over it. Sit down and put pen to page. List out all the things that you feel you've made mistakes on, and for each one of those items, try and think of at least 3 things that you can learn from that mistake moving forward to either better the pattern or, leave it in the past and move forward. Because the present is our presence is a present when we're present in the moment. To be present, to be in the now, there is no mistake. The mistake happens when you choose to think about the past or the future. But when you're present, you're not making a decision necessarily. You're just there. Decisions are based on, if I do this, then this will happen. So that's thinking in the future. Or I've done this and this happened, which is thinking in the past. So I feel like the easiest way to deter yourself from making another mistake is to just ground yourself into the present moment and try not to think about making an action, but just observe everything around you. And your brain will start to regulate itself into a state of homeostasis, I guess you could say. And it'll be a lot easier to then make decisions throughout your day because you took the time to just suck yourself right back into your present moment. So that's how I feel about this topic. Like I said, I could go on, but at a certain point, I feel like I'm just repeating myself. So I'm now going to pass it on to Doña Liz.
This topic is a very touchy topic for me because when it comes down to learning from my mistakes, my consequences in my childhood was received through corporal punishment or shame, or even just insults like I'm stupid, why would I do that, like eres tan pendeja, it is puerca because I had a messy room, I didn't clean the dishes right, or whatever it may be. I made a mistake. And in that process of my errors, I was learning, oh, my parent just had a big reaction and it didn't make me feel good. And what can I do now to not do it again? Listening to my parents' voice. I'm looking at their facial features. And I'm retaining the knowledge that they are saying just by simply listening and observing. Why? Because I was afraid that I would get a beating. So, my observational learning is always through when someone has eyes, a voice, and a body language that carries energy of I've done something wrong or I've made a mistake. And in my mind, I have a hard time regulating myself to learn, and takes me a bit of a process to reflect on some things. But I'll eventually grasp what's going on, retain the situation, and learn from it. To be receptive and also to express too. But sometimes in my household, it was you you shut your mouth and you listen to me because I'm the adult. Was a lot of the times, but in Spanish, que cállate el hocico. Yeah, it was pretty mean. But there were also moments of beauty too in my household. It wasn't always like that. You know, the times where I wasn't always in trouble and I was hanging out with um yeah,
Wasn't hanging out with what?
I forgot. Um but even when I get emotional, as someone once puts it, that I'm such an emotional being. Yes, I am a sensitive person. Like a baby, like a toddler. Adults are sensitive beings too. We have feelings as well. And we have reactions to circumstance that may happen to us. Or, yeah, really that happens to us. Or things that we do to ourselves. And we can learn from it. You know, some cases are very serious than others. Like, for example, I got a speeding ticket the other day.
Me too. Right before hers.
I honestly was just getting egged on by another driver on the freeway. You know, I was going the speed limit. They were tailgating me. I slowed down. Then they, like, you know, being very aggressive on the road. And then once the road opened up for that car and me, I eventually drove into the slower lane and slowed down. They kept going at my speed, the same speed as me, and I didn't quite understand why they kept doing that when they were already going so fast and they were tailgating me in the first place when they could have gone around me. But they continued to follow me. So I began to speed up. And then they began to speed up. And then I began to slow down. And it was a pattern that I was observing on the freeway. And I didn't feel fucking safe. So what did I do? I'm trying to drive as fast as I can to my location. And honestly, yes, I was going pretty fast with my children in the car. And with Doña Yakiel here in the car too. But I was driving to get to my safe place where I knew people are there. That was what popped in my mind. That was what was the logical thing to do for myself. Rather than pulling over and saying, hey, what's up? And then they have something in their car and I get hurt. Yeah, I don't know what they're capable of. At least that's what's running through my mind of what could happen. I don't know what people are capable of these days. Especially from where I come from. Don't mean to downplay my town, but there's good and bad everywhere. There's violence everywhere. And, well, people do carry. They have licenses to carry and conceal. Permits to carry and conceal. And I don't know what people are capable of. I'm from a city where literally road rage can get you literally killed. And yes, I did express my situation to the officer. You know, they understand my situation, but because I had the children in the car, they morally couldn't let it go. And I completely understand. And I have to face my fate with it. I don't have enough money. I don't have any money right now to pay for it. So I'm curious how I can do community service. If not, I'll go to jail for this. It's okay, I'll serve some time. But that's the true meaning of learning from my mistakes. I understand my consequences and I'm willing to take accountability for it. And when some people do approach me, if I do make an error, I would appreciate I statements. I noticed this. I see this. I observed this. I witnessed this. I heard this. I saw this. It's all, I feel like this. This makes me feel like this. Or I don't know. Start with you, myself, I, me, myself, and I. Rather than using accusatory language like you did this at this time. You put this on that table. You didn't do this. I statements are great to assert yourself in conflict or anything that feels like a problem. I feel like this. Always start with the I's because it's simple and short. It gets straight to the point because it's coming from you and it's grounding. You're talking about yourself. And if that other person is starting with the you, don't respond. If they at some point, if I start to hear the word you in the sentence, I'm just gonna, if that's the start off, or if I'm constantly hearing you in your speech instead of I did this and I feel like this because of this. Start with first I feel, then I saw, or I heard. And then I also learned from my reactions. I know that different states of emotions have different reactions. Since we were children, they've taught us, at least for me, red means mad, yellow means happy. I don't know. At least to me, those colors are what represents to me when I see them. Red means love, or brown is the color of the tree. I don't know. It's like tomato tomato. I'm learning from my tomato errors. I know a tomato is just a tomato. There's nothing else to it. There's nothing more than just a tomato, a tomate. If you get what I'm saying. If not, that's okay. I'm just exhausted. And I feel like I have a hard time trying to express my needs. And it's because I always feel like I can't, just because of what my parents always expressed to me. Cállate el hocico. You listen to me, especially when it sounds authoritative or when someone's mad. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just be quiet. And I would just kind of like, in a sense, disassociate. Because I feel like my voice is not being heard, and that misunderstanding just creates errors between me and what's happening from outside, which affects what happens in here and in here. And that's something that I'm constantly learning. And I know everyone is too. I'm not the only one. And I'm just saying here, just be accountable for yourself. Start using I statements rather than accusatory language. If you feel like you see a problem, write it down. I see this. And then what do you have to do? You have to write the needs, not the wants. Because the wants are the dreams, and the needs are what's more important to pay attention to. Like the needing to listen to your tummy when it's rumbling. And you gotta voice it out to the people who's around in your vicinity so that they are made aware to respect your entity so that you can go and rejuvenate your body to continue the cycle of working. Or simply, oh my God, I need water. Water. I need water. Or eat. Or water.
That's how our son says eat.
Yeah, he says
he points
eat.
at his mouth, or he goes like this.
Yeah, he has done this, eat.
Mm-hmm.
But just as simple as body language. And body language says a lot. It says a lot. It doesn't lie. The body doesn't lie. So what you say here, your body may not reflect what says here or here. And even though you're using this doesn't reflect this or this. So you gotta pay attention to all kinds of things. Literally. Your brain is working so hard to pay attention. So that's why I say we're consistently learning from our mistakes. It doesn't matter how old or how young you are. Your mistakes are very valid, but as long as you're willing to learn from them and take accountable for your actions. In a safe space, obviously. If you don't feel safe, well, you gotta humble yourself and be, Walk away from that space because it's not safe. And if you can't leave, I'm sorry, you're a prisoner now. That's just how I see it. But you look at history, what did they do to the indigenous people? They took them. But I don't want to get into that because that makes me mad.
It's a whole other video.
It's a whole other video. But what I want to do, say one last piece. Because earlier today, Yakiel and I made a song. Right? I was just kind of dabbling or venting. And, you know, it was more about a moment of where I was thinking about my ancestors, about language. You know, language is a very common thing brought up in this house. Verbally, how we speak it, different languages, our body languages, everything, literally. But I was more thinking about the history that belongs.
May I give a little context really quick?
Go for it.
We were driving, and she was, as she said, thinking of all these things. And there's this restaurant that we had out here that no longer exists. They went out of business.
Jerk chicken.
Jerk chicken. R.I.P. They were good food.
I think that's what it was.
That's what it was, yes. It was the jerk chicken spot. And we were driving past it, but it hasn't been there for a while. But now there's this new restaurant. And I was like, oh, I think it was called Casa Gracias. And I was like, I've never heard of this new spot. I didn't know that was there. And Liz's response, she just said it, and then after saying it, she said, that was a bar. And she's like, write that down. And then we started to build off of it a little bit. We both kind of, she said something, and I was like, can I tweak it a little bit for flow? And she's like, yeah. And this is what came about from it.
So I'm just going to say it because I don't have a rhyme to it, but it's just going to go how it goes. So I apologize. I'm not the greatest poetry writer or literature writer or songwriter, however you call this, writing. Okay. It goes like this. We taking over, we claiming it back, so y'all don't have the nerve to call me a motherfucking wetback. So speak your native tongue, dance under the sun. Do you understand that what's done has been done? Yeah, a little, still working with it, but that's what it is.
Someday in the future, we will have a song together. I used to make music a lot. I haven't done it in a long time. I've had writer's block for like fucking centuries. But, sometimes I get inspired. And in those moments, I've shared with Doña Liz here, like, would you be willing to work with me on a song? She's like, yeah, I'd be down. So, I know it's going to happen one day, but we're also not going to force it. Because that's the thing with art. The moment you try and force it, it doesn't have that genuine connection to the audience or to yourself. And I think that's what's most important about art, is it's an expression of yourself. And in this pure moment, it was a pure expression of something she said, and it started to form into something because she realized, oh, that kind of it's got something there. you know? So, yeah. And also, I'd like to take a quick moment too. I made a mistake during this video that I observed the body language of her, Elizabeth here, and I felt bad where I reached over for this vape because of my own fucking habit, and it threw her off. She forgot what she was saying, and I'd like to formally apologize to you because it was not my intention to throw you off. I was just fiending for some nicotine, and that's my mistake. But I want to learn from it and move forward by apologizing and recognizing that that wasn't the time to do that. And I hope that you understand.
I hear you, and all I gotta say to this is that I hope that we can break this habit of the cycle of smoking, because I don't want it in my life unless it's being used in a medicinal aspect, and that is not medicinal usage. I can't agree with that mechanism. Not anymore.
Even though tobacco has been used medicinally for centuries through cultures, this is not tobacco.
That's not tobacco.
This is chemicals and flavors and nicotine. But, yeah.
I also want to add that. Where is it at? I just had it.
It's right there.
Always. This too. This right here is taking a lot of our attention. Right here. I just gotta say this. Okay? I'm gonna put it out there. I'm not gonna say the brand's name. I'm not gonna say where I got it from. But I'm gonna say this. Okay? I have an issue with these things because it leaks. It's fried my battery, and I've brought it to a dispensary's attention, and they've told me about their policy that return it within 3 days or anytime it clogs or it's leaking, and all of those things had occurred, and they used accusatory language by saying, it seems like you are the only one who's been bringing this in. And I expressed to them, it's because I've been expressing these things, and your staff has been telling me that you have within 3 days to return it. So I do save my receipt, and I do check the dates on my receipt, because some places have a 30-day return policy, or places like Costco, but that's a big corporation, and I know a lot of dispensaries are small businesses. So, what I'm saying here is, I think we need to have maybe a recall for these things. And I think we need to have a better education to how we can use these things in a proper way that's medicinal usage, rather than fiending or looking for something to numb you or whatever it is, to relax. It should be meant for pain, okay? For pain, to relax any muscles in your body, but this is not the way to do it. But this eventually is gonna go away for us, both of these. I'm setting this goal right now, and all of you who watch this, who is hearing me, is gonna see me drop these bitches. Excuse my language, but that's my goal. And if there's something like friends, even family, who try to peer pressure me into it, I will not walk in those spaces. Or I shouldn't say that. I will walk into those spaces because it's like a person who's recovering from drinking alcohol or other things, like a recovering addict, And this is a form of addiction, you know? We're learning from our mistakes to not continue the cycle, right? That's another perfect example. Not to continue this cycle, and I'm very aware of it now. And I believe it's time to drop it because it's consumed a lot of our life. And money.
Which also,
and time.
Yeah.
And it takes us away from being present.
And as a recovering addict myself, I've been in AA meetings, NA meetings, and something I've always observed is a lot of recovering addicts always need a replacement vice. Majority of any addict will always be smoking a cigarette or have a vape. There's lesser of two evils, Yeah, this might be better than going and shooting up dope or snorting a line or whatever your choice of drug was, but it's a crutch nonetheless. It's something that you're leaning on that can take you away from being present in your body. And sometimes we have a lot of pain in our minds and our hearts, that it's easier, the instant gratification of a substance that you can ingest to take that pain away is temporary. That's the biggest thing that I've learned through all of my addictions. It's always a temporary crutch. It's never permanent. The permanent fix is to completely rid your body of all toxins, to take care of your mental health, your physical health. And that takes work, especially if you have not been treating your body right. As I mentioned, I think it was the last video or a video before it, I fried my brain out for a good minute. And it took a lot of years, and still I'm recovering, to rewire all that shit. And these are still in my life. By choice. It's a choice. Every day I wake up, I choose to continue the pattern. And it's something that we both at this point in our lives are agreeing that, no, we need to stop this. We still have them here with us, and I think we're kind of saying our final goodbyes, for lack of a better term. Just kind of really consciously using them, thinking about, does this really make me feel what I want to feel? And that process of thinking about that kind of naturally makes you want to just get rid of it anyways. So I have a buddy who's also trying to do the same thing with the vape specifically. We're trying to do it, and it's always easier to quit a habit when other people around you are trying to do it as well.
Yes.
You have a support system. You have someone who can share that, oh, I really want this. Well, let's do this instead of you just fighting it on your own.
Yeah.
And so that's what I look forward to throughout this process, is neither of us are going to be doing it alone. We're going to be doing it together.
And also, not just ourselves, but with our kids and the community that we're going to be meeting, and the collaborations that we will be making with other collectives and cooperatives and organizations that exist today who have the same mission, which is we're shooting for change. We're learning from our mistakes, and we're changing for the better. For the better of our kids' future and for our children's future. Because they deserve a healthy life, mentally, physically, and spiritually.
In the words of Joey Badass in a song, can't think of what it's called right this moment, but he says, can't change the world if we don't change ourselves. Die from the sicknesses if we don't seek the health. All eyes be my witness when I speak what's felt. Okay, that simple introductory to the song is very powerful, and it speaks to what we're saying here. We can't change the world unless we make change in ourselves. We can't focus on healing other people if we don't heal ourselves. So, tying it back to the whole topic of mistakes, that is the essence of learning from a mistake. If you want to make change, you got to learn yourself how to change the things within you so that you then have the capacity and the proper tools to make change outside of yourself.
And sometimes our lessons can be very cryptic too, because we may not understand the lesson that's being presented to us until it happens more than a few times. It happens again and again and again, and it becomes a cycle, and then you're getting tired of the cycle, and then you're like, stop, I want to chill. I want to chill and relax. Stop. This is not healthy for me. So, yeah, we all learn from our mistakes. We all learn to grow and to be better and to change for the better, for the greater good, for the greater of the better of our future. So, this is where we're going to end it. Have a great one, you guys. Stay safe. And as always, con mucho amor y cariño, y respeto.
Much love.
Much love. Peace out, y'all.